Hey guys, welcome to the 14th C programming tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to use the for loop. And in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make a program that'll print out all of the odd numbers in between 1 and 50 using the for loop. But before we can actually begin coding our program, what you're going to have to do is just go up to where it says settings and then go down to compiler and debugger. And then go over to this other option tab right here. And make sure you have this code written in right here. So you're going to want to type -std equals C99. Alright, then just go ahead and click OK. And we needed to do that so that we can actually use the for loop, because if we didn't, it wouldn't recognize what that code actually does. Alright, so then to actually create our for loop, what we're going to have to do is just type out the keyword for, so FOR, and then following that just put 2 parentheses. And the first thing that I'm going to type inside these parentheses is int I equals 1, semicolon. And this integer variable that I'm creating right here, we can use throughout this for loop. So we can print out the value of this variable inside our for loop, we can increment it, decrement it, and all that stuff. Alright, and then the reason that I set it to 1 is because we're printing out all of the odd numbers in between 1 and 50, so this is just our starting value. Then following this, we're going to want to put our conditional statement. So we want our for loop to loop while the value of I is less than 50. And then following that, we're just going to put another semicolon. So basically, as long as this value is true, our loop is going to continue looping. Alright, and then after that, we're just going to put I plus equals 2. And we need this so that I will increment by 2, and it will go through all of the odd numbers. So it'll add 2 to 1, we'll get 3, it'll add 2 to 3, we'll get 5, and so on. Alright, and then following that, you're just going to want to put all the code that you want to execute inside of your loop. And if you're having more than one line of code execute, you need to have the curly braces, but if you're only having one line of code execute inside of your loop, then you don't need the curly braces. And for us, we only need one line of code to execute, so we do not need the curly braces. And all we have to do inside of here is just print out the value of I. So I'm going to say printf %i, since we're printing out an integer variable, and then I'm just going to go ahead and do /n to end that line. Then a comma, and then I, since we're printing out the value of our integer variable called I right here. Alright, and then I just need to end that line with a semicolon. So let's just go ahead right here and go through this code. So the first thing that it does is it creates a new integer variable called I and sets it equal to 1. Then it checks to see if the value of I is less than 50. Is 1 less than 50? Yes it is, so it just goes in here and prints out 1 onto our screen. Then it jumps back up here and increments I by 2. So now the value of I is 3. It goes back to this right here and checks to see if the value of I is less than 50. Is 3 less than 50? Yes it is, so it just jumps down here, prints out 3 onto the screen. Comes up here, increments I by 2 again, I is equal to 5, checks if 5 is less than 50, yes it is, so it prints it out onto the screen. And it'll just keep doing that and doing that and doing that until I is equal to 51. Then it'll check and see if I is less than 50. Is 51 less than 50? No it's not, so it's just going to go ahead and exit the program right here. So basically, it only executes this line of code right here once. It executes this line of code before it enters the loop, and it executes this line of code after it goes through the code inside of the loop right here. Alright, so let's just go ahead and run this and make sure that it works. Yep, onto our screen we get all the odd numbers in between 1 and 50. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial on using the for loop. So, see you guys.